Hello, hello, hello. This is Misty Magdalena Grace with the new and improved version of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, where we talk about spirituality, psychedelics, plant medicine, microdosing, and really that journey within to finding your best innate wisdom, to your best health, your best wealth through all sorts of inner child healing, trauma release, grief recovery, overcoming addictions, and working with the mind, the body, and spirit. So go ahead, leave a review, subscribe, download. We look forward to your feedback. Thanks for tuning in today. Welcome back, everyone. It's Magdalena Grace for another show, another guest. And actually, this is my first guest of the year that wasn't my husband. And I'm super excited to have Jennifer Spor on here today and the Path of the Awakened Heart podcast. Just a couple of reminders, if you're new to my show, we do stream these 99% of the time live inside of my Facebook group, on my YouTube channel, LinkedIn, a couple of other spaces and places. So if you feel compelled to ever tune in live, we love a live audience to help you go deeper with the guests, deeper with myself. You can ask questions, and by all means, comment below if you're tuning in live, hashtag live, or if it's on the replay, hashtag replay. And we do about 30 minutes, give or take, on every show. So if you feel called to tune in and watch the whole live show and ask questions, we always love to acknowledge that you're here and answer your questions if time allows. So without further ado, in this month of love, I thought, what better person to bring on than Jennifer? And I've never had someone with her exact skill set on. So Jennifer, I'm super excited to have you here today to be talking to an expert in a couple different methods and modalities that I've never had on here that in that combination. So Jennifer is a spiritual advisor, a channel, an Akashic Records consultant. And she has an amazing story, which I'm going to ask her to share here shortly. And again, she's the host of the Path of the Awakened Heart podcast, which I was a guest on. So I'm so honored to have you back here on my show, Jennifer. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for the warm welcome. And I just want to check really quick. Can you hear me okay? Because the connection was a little bit bumpy on my end.
Yes, we can hear you perfect.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. So I'll answer your questions. And if I don't hear you correctly, let me know. There's a little bit of freezing happening. So yes, thank you for the warm welcome. And did you want me to start off by sharing my story? I'm sorry, the connection wasn't good.
Yes, absolutely. Please share with us your story.
Okay. Yeah. So there are, I like to share really that there are, a lot of evolutions and phases and seasons that we all experience on our journey, right? Like a lot of catalyzers. I'll share what I believe is probably the initial one on my journey. And that was really that, many years ago, it's been quite a few years at this point, before I am doing the work that I'm doing now, I actually had a whole other career. I worked in the retail industry for like 23, 24 years. And I had checked a lot of the boxes off the list of what so many of us learn that traditional society says that we need to achieve success, right? I essentially reached a space on my journey where I was no longer feeling challenged in the work that I was doing. And I did love what I did for a long time, and come to find out that, it's like I worked in the retail industry for so long because I love helping people so much, So what I realized later down the road after all these changes was like, I was dating my purpose, instead of like married to it. So I had the aspect of how I enjoy helping people. Anyways, I wanted to add that in there, but, I just wasn't challenged anymore. And I was also in a high level leadership position in a corporate environment where there was just a lot of bureaucracy, and I wasn't feeling like I was making a big difference either. So that really kind of is where the fog started to lift. And despite that awareness, I didn't take action at that time, based out of fear, mostly because especially like a lot of people in my generation, I would say, and then our parents as well, it was the thing, right, to stay at a company for a long time or to stay doing the same thing for the long time. It was like anti-change. So I immediately thought to myself, wow, okay, I know I'm not happy, but like, where can I go to make this much money? Like I had, I was just wondering, and my ego mind was like running the show at that point. What I did do right away was start spending more time going within and essentially rediscovering myself, because one of the things that I realized is that I had lost my own identity. Like I didn't really know who I was, because in my career at that point, I was on all the time. And when I wasn't working, I was really allowing like my friends and family to influence most of how I spent my time. So there was that journey of beginning to figure out, well, who am I? I also have always been really sensitive and had spiritual gifts. So I started spending more time opening back up to those as well, because I had shut them down for so long. So fast forward about a year and a half later, and my mom at the time, she was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And at the time I was living on the East Coast. So I was on the opposite end of the US from where she was in Idaho. So I was flying back and forth frequently to be with her as much as possible and to help my family. And there was this one moment that I remember so clearly, like, like it was a second ago. I was sitting next to her bedside, and this was just days before she passed. And my phone started blowing up, my work phone. And it was some issue, that was happening. And I found myself faced with yet another moment of like, here I get to choose. Am I going to be present to react to whatever this fire is that needs to be put out? Or am I going to choose instead to be fully present with my mom? Like I was faced with like, what's really most important to me? And I think that actually was the last time that I saw my mom before she died. So in that moment, I chose. I said, I'm done. I said to myself, I'm done. My courage finally had exceeded my fear. I had no clue what I was going to do with my life beyond that moment. I didn't know. I just knew that I just had to make a change right then. And so I did. And what ended up happening is shortly after my mom passed, I ended up stepping down from my career, because at the time I didn't know for sure that I wanted to leave that job. Right. So I would have stayed had I been given the opportunity. But at the time, remote work culture didn't really exist, so I made a choice, because at the time I wanted to move out to Idaho to be closer to my family, my remaining family. So I stepped down from my career, and much like the lyrics of a country song, right? Like I literally rented out my house, packed up my car, headed out west, drove across the country in 4 days, which was just like beyond liberating to do that. And it was really, so I went back out to Idaho, and it was really during that time of transition that I discovered what I wanted to do, because what was happening is at the time there was like a lot of support in terms of healers, therapists, coaches, people who were supporting me on my path. At the time, I was hard pressed to find someone to support me who could actually relate to the awakening that I was experiencing, like what I was going through, but also to support me in integrating who I was becoming into my physical reality. So it was really then that I was like, okay, I need to help other people do this, like make these transitions, get to know themselves again, and live fully expressed in their truth. And so the rest is history. Like that's how this path was created, And, since then there have been several evolutions, right? And changes in seasons, but the core of my purpose and mission has never changed.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And hopefully there's not a delay in my speaking. We'll just let me know if there is. But you made me think of a few kind of like things I want to highlight really quickly. Like there's a saying, you can be a settler or a seeker. A lot of us, and I don't want to, you don't have to tell us your age. I'm 46. So I feel like I'm 46 and I finally figured out what I want to be when I grow up, because we have these parents of that. Mm-hmm. My parents were born in the 30s, right? So they were my dad stayed in the same house for 62 years, not just the same career, but the same house. So you have this really, I don't want to say that settling is bad. Okay. You think about the early pioneers, they settled the land, they settled with their home and all of that. Right. But they also didn't like change, and they just stayed in the comfort zone. Whereas I think you and me, we're here to be the change makers, right? To break the mold, to be the seekers. And of course, that's why we got connected, is we're here to help other seekers go within to find the answers instead of looking outside of themselves. And I love what you said about dating your passion, did you say, or dating your
dating my purpose instead of being married to it. Yeah, it's like it's, it sounds cliche, but it really is so true. You see everywhere, follow your joy. It's true. It's not just a fluffy cliche. The things that we're naturally drawn to, which probably, which some of the time can be things that we just feel are common sense, right? So we're discounting, our gifts and what it is, but it is those things that are so innately part of us that are part of what we're here to do, and all of our purpose, right? Part of it is to be here to learn, to ascend, and to evolve. But we also all have wisdom and gifts that we're here to share with each other as well. Like one of my favorite visuals of, because we're all unique, but we're all interconnected, right? Including the earth and all of the cosmos. And I love picturing humanity as this beautiful, enormous quilt where each and every thread, there's like 8 billion threads, but each one is a unique color, but yet they're all interwoven together.
Yeah, I love that. My husband in a plant medicine journey, he saw it similar. It was like each one of us is a note inside of a huge symphony of orchestra of notes. And you think of how many notes are in an orchestra symphony concert, right?
Yes.
Everyone's playing their music. And some of us aren't, we had trauma. We have maybe things that we need to go within, and the Akashic records. I'd like to talk about that today, because I haven't had anybody in over 300 episodes and 3.5 years, Jennifer, believe it or not. I have not had anyone talk about it. So I'd like for you to share what are the Akashic records, and how do they help people in this day and age of this ascension process and healing trauma and things of that nature?
Yeah. So there's a collective consciousness, right? The Akasha, everything is energy. The Akashic records very simply are the library for your soul. So the Akashic records are this limitless storehouse of information of all of your soul's experiences. And each one of us has access to those Akashic records. So sometimes the Akashic records are referred to as a modality, and it's even beyond that, because the Akashic records are an aspect of our being. So we all have access to them, right? Something else I like to share about this too is to put into perspective the sheer limitlessness of what I'm talking about. Is when we talk about soul purpose or soul led or soulmates, or we put the term soul in front of something, what we're actually referring to is a fragment of our soul. So past, present, future lives, right? beyond the earth plane, those time constructs don't exist. Everything is actually happening multidimensionally in the now. And so each one of those experiences represents a fragment of our soul, which is part of our oversoul.
Maybe hold on a second, because since you're the first person, if you don't mind, act as if everyone in my audience is maybe a kindergarten or second grade student. When you say things like oversoul, this is good stuff. I get it. But in case someone's newer to this information, maybe elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah. So even for people who have been on this path for a while, oversoul isn't something that is streamlined, that is talked about. So just to put that into context, but
that's a good point. But what do you mean by that? That's a good point. Yeah.
Right. But very simply, right, you are a soul in this human body. You're having a human experience. So your humanity is an aspect of who you are and what you're experiencing in this now moment. Your soul, or your life force energy, right, is eternal. So when this body is done with its journey here, your life force energy, your soul, is going to go back into the oversoul or combine with the cosmos, right? To go back out and into this limitlessness of field of consciousness. And it's going to go have another experience. Your oversoul, basically, it's like your soul in this single life experience. I like to say it's the small s, the lowercase s, and then your oversoul is the uppercase s, right? It's like all the fragments of your soul are having these experiences.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Would you also say higher self, capital S, would be the same? Or do you see those as...
Yeah, similar. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So your fragment of your soul is having this experience. So you can be having this experience in the reality that you're aware of now. At the same time, you're having a past life experience. At the same time, a future version of yourself is having an experience, because we're multidimensional beings. We don't exist in one kind of space and time. And so all of those experiences that you're having simultaneously are fragments, and all the fragments combine to your oversoul, which is the total all-encompassing collection of all of the experiences that you have at a soul level, and they all reside in your Akashic records. It's very enormous.
Yeah, like you said, a library of souls. Like I imagine like the Smithsonian, or like a huge library.
Yeah, I mean, I use the term library, a lot, because that helps put into perspective, especially for people who aren't as familiar with the Akashic records, in terms of, because libraries have a lot of information in them, right? So the Akashic records are your soul's records, and you can access them to retrieve clarity on your purpose, clarity on anything. You can receive healing in your Akashic records. You can create new realities in your Akashic records. One of the reasons why I love working in the Akashic records with clients is because in my years of experience, and I've studied a lot of healing modalities and different things, the Akashic records provide one of the most direct paths to ascension. So you're accessing your soul's records directly to receive healing, information, connect with your guides, connect with the record keepers, whatever it is that you desire to do. It tends to be one of the most direct paths in order to do so, which goes back to, like, you can benefit as much from accessing the Akashic records as is your willingness to make a change, right? So as humans, we still have free will. And sometimes your ego mind or your conscious human mind can say, well, of course, of course I want to manifest this, or of course I want to make this change or make this shift. But sometimes our body isn't always saying the same thing. So
a lot of the times I would say.
yes. And so you'll receive as much of a shift as is your willingness to actually shift. And those are all things that you can explore in the records as well, getting to the root cause of trauma, of why your body is holding on to resistance. And I feel guided to mention, right, this is all important because the ascension journey, we talk about ascension sometimes, and what ascension really is, it's learning, but ascension is the balance and harmonization of all aspects of your being, right? So when you're setting intentions, looking at yourself spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically, to look at, are all of those bodies aligned, right?
Yeah.
You talked about this a bit in one of your podcast episodes that I listened to, when you talked about the body and the importance of the different bodies. Mm-hmm. So anyways, bottom line is, even though you have this amazing access to yourself at a soul level, there still needs to be an aspect of you that is willing and ready to receive the information and the healing.
Yeah, I say that a lot about the same as with plant medicine. The plants are not going to show you something you're not ready for, and you've got to come in with an intention. And it's, I think both, when I hear you talk about Akashic records, to me, it's also about remembering who you truly are and embodying all of that in your daily life with love, compassion. Maybe if you can give some practical examples. I don't know if you want to share like the top 3 best Akashic records healing stories that you've witnessed with your clients, or if any of my listeners are out there, keeping in mind that a lot of my listeners want to improve their health, their wealth, and relationships. How could the Akashic records readings, how can you help them?
Yeah. Wow. There are so many stories. I had one client that often comes to mind, which illustrates really well how fast you can collapse space and time to experience a shift when you're willing. I had just one session with this person, and she commented to me, our session was an hour, and she says, about 25 minutes in, I think you just changed my life in 25 minutes. Like, that's how fast shifts can happen when you're ready and willing to make a shift. I have also so many stories of people who have experienced chronic pain, in their body, in their physical body, and through working with them in their Akashic records, identifying the cause of the stored energy in their body that's causing that, and shifting that, and their pain actually going away. One of the things, because there are a lot of people that work in the Akashic records, but everyone has their own unique gifts. And I also have lots of stories about how I've worked with people to identify, their highest aligned path or their purpose and mission, right? I specifically have a gift where when I'm connected with someone, I can tune into their field and I can see and feel what their highest aligned path is, like what they're here to do, what they're meant to do, and also anything that might be obstructing it, right? And then help them take actionable steps to shift it and to start aligning to that timeline. Those are a couple of different things.
I love that. Yeah. The aligned action is so key. So key. I wish I would have met you 3 years ago. Because I know there's a lot
of you say about alignment. Oh, sorry, there is a delay.
No, I'm sort of being silly, but there's a lot of people, because of this ascension process, the age of Aquarius that we're in now, is people don't want to make money for the sake of making money. They want to make money in a meaningful way. And there's even some people who are like living off the land, living in communities, communes, they're more about community. And, I think it's scary for a lot of people out there to like do what you did, do what I did. I mean, I went in an incredible amount of debt to now be pursuing my purpose and my passion, because it was too painful to stay in the other, even if I was making tons of money. Right. So do you have any advice for people besides obviously, reaching out to you and having a session on how to go inward to figure out how to take that leap of faith or how to pursue their purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to say, the reason why we feel stuck whenever you do feel stuck is because you've been being guided to do something that your ego is resisting doing. Okay. So then what happens is what happened with me, what happened with you, is you get to the point where you just can't take it anymore. Like you have to make a change, no matter what the circumstances. To add to that, I want to say that when you're feeling guided to make a change, your need to wait until all the circumstances are just so, or until you have enough money, or until this is right, or until that happens. If you operate that way, then you're gonna be waiting a long time, right? It's like, it's not about waiting until you're not scared. It's about your ability to make a decision to move forward despite the fear. And then when you take that first step, then the universe rises up to meet you, right? And that is how creating works. That's how creating reality works. Everything is actually energy. You have the idea, you get the guidance, you have the vision, and then you take the first step. The reason why we struggle with this so much is because there's such a deep infiltration of societal programming that tells us that we need to look outside ourselves for the solution to everything, and that we have to wait until everything is just so before we make a move, which is actually the complete opposite of how we're created.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and I know some people, most everyone on my audience should know this term by now, but what you're talking about, waiting till all of the money is there, waiting until, the perfect situation, waiting till whatever, that's so 3D. And now and I fought against that tooth and nail, because I was a sales coach, very, very analytical mind, very left brain, very logical, training, set goals, numbers. And I got to a point through my awakening, I was like, I couldn't even set a goal anymore, because I knew my divine guidance was like, no, follow your bliss, follow your heart, like your title of your podcast, The Path of the Awakened Heart. We want our heart brains. We want to be thinking with this more in this 5D consciousness world, yeah, as opposed to this. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. The reason why I brought that up too is because even after you've made a decision to make a change, right? Constructs can be sneaky. So, it's an everyday practice. It's an everyday practice to create space, to tune in to your soul's guidance and to follow it regardless of what your ego mind, your human mind is telling you. And I want to say too that the ego mind, we talk about how it fears and it questions. Well, it serves a purpose too, but its purpose is to keep us safe, not to help us to expand. And that's important to understand.
It wants us to keep playing small. I had many, I don't know that ego death is the right word. I call it making my ego my friend because I know it's trying to get my attention. And in fact, it will give you clues if you do the daily practice. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's what I tell my clients 100% of the time. No matter how many books you read, you still got to go inward and course correct along the way and build that muscle too. Because I know for me, it took me a year to really start to really trust my intuition and to get into a solid practice, so much so that now I can't go a day without it. And I think I want to encourage the listeners to remember that, especially if you had the belief systems that we've had, like always looking outside yourself for your answers, religion, dogma, patriarchal programming, systems, rules, guidelines, power, greed and control, and all of that's external. A lot of it's fear-based too, which fear, it's an illusion, but unfortunately, a lot of times the ego is looking out and coming from that place of fear. So it's even changing your relationship with all of that. And there's always so much more I want to cover, but I do want to start wrapping up here. Is there any other, before I go to the sponsored ad and ask you the final question and tell people where they can find you, is there any other nugget that you feel led to share right now?
Yeah, one other thing I'm feeling guided strongly to bring forward right now is, what we're talking about isn't just for beginners, right? For people who are feeling guided to make their initial catalyzing big change. Throughout your journey, there are going to be several big changes that you're going to be faced with. And it's because change is actually part of who we are. Again, another societal program where we've been told that we need to fear change, right? So that, and then always understanding and knowing that there is always more for you to learn. Humility is one of the greatest qualities to embody, because if there was nothing else for us to learn, then we would not be here. So trying to always approach your path and your interactions with yourself and others with an open mind and with humility.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of my top 3 core values now. I think that was one of the biggest lessons I needed to remember that I had forgotten about. So don't go anywhere, Jennifer. I want to quick have my sponsors ad, and then I have one final question, and then you guys can hear how you can get in touch with Jennifer. Don't go away.
Healthy and Wealthy and Wise is proudly sponsored by the Soul Vine, your number one go-to source for ayahuasca microdosing. This ayahuasca is legal. It is the Cappy vine. There is no DMT extract or molecule as a part of it, and it can and will transform your life from the inside out. Supporting the Shipibo tribe from South America, this is my go-to source for healing. Learn more at microdosingforhealth.com.
All right, guys, we have one final question, but first, before I ask that, Jennifer, where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Thanks for asking. The easiest place to find me is at my website, jenniferspor.com. So for those who are listening, it's JENNIFERSPOR.com. You can find more info about my podcast, Path of the Awakened Heart, ways that we can work together, more about my story, and all of the fun things.
Yay. And just so you guys know, also in the show notes, I will be sharing a free meditation to activate your highest destiny from Jennifer. Thank you so much for that as well, how you can follow her on Instagram and her website written out. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. I know we could probably have gone, well, I'll have to have you back. That's just, I've decided I got to have you back. We'll talk more, especially as this year is supposed to be a big roller coaster for so many. And I know you and I feel like we're kind of like, we went through it a little bit earlier than some or maybe most. And so we can be the way showers and light workers that can hopefully be a guiding light and an inspiration for you guys. So please do reach out to Jennifer. So my final question for you, I ask every guest, when you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, Jennifer, what does it mean for you?
The first word that comes forward and the energy that comes forward is wholeness, whole.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. If you guys are still tuning in, or if you catch this on the replay, or if you're listening to this on YouTube later or in my email list or however, and you see value in this show today, please share it with someone. I always say sharing is caring. So share with your community, especially if someone maybe has felt like they've tried everything through this ascension process, or maybe they don't even know what's going on and they don't know about an ascension process, but they've just been stuck, struggling, health, wealth, relationships. Jennifer's one of many resources that I like to bring to my community so that you know that you're not alone, that you have many paths, many options for healing, especially on the topic today of going inward and building that relationship with your higher self, the oversoul, and then helping you be that highest and best version of you. So until next time, guys, here's to your best health, your best wealth, your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, download, leave a 5-star rating or review, and also please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from this inspirational message. We hope to see you again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or join my Facebook community. And if you are looking to manifest your best health, your best wealth by trusting your best wisdom within, please go to my website, www.microdosingforhealth.com. Again, www.microdosingforhealth.com, to quiet your mind, get into your heart, heal your body, and